I look like I've been dragged through a bush backwards. Hi everyone, it's Tash and welcome to another recipe video. And today we're making some hot cross buns, but not just any hot cross buns, matcha hot cross buns. This is actually my first time making hot cross buns, which isn't exactly a groundbreaking revelation. It's not the end of the world if you've never made hot cross buns before, but in my years and years of baking, for some reason I've been a little bit nervous about them because of the cross on top, and it turns out it's actually really easy. It's just a simple flour and water paste. Past old-fashioned recipes I've seen in my really old cookbooks, or rather my mum's really old cookbooks, which I used to steal and peruse, were really needlessly complicated and they involved gelatin and all sorts of different steps. But I just took it as a normal bread roll, but with some spices, in this case vanilla instead of traditional spices, and matcha instead of not matcha. And I went through the same simple steps of bread, proof the bread, shape the bread, proof it again and bake it, but with the extra step of the flour paste crosses on top. Simple, who knew? Okie dokie, let's go to the kitchen and start making these buns. As with any bread, we're going to start with some strong white bread flour, and here I've got 275 grams. To that I'm adding 2 tablespoonfuls of caster sugar, a pinch of salt, a heaped tablespoonful of matcha, and I'm just sifting it through so there aren't any lumps. And now we're going to add some fast action / easy bake yeast, and to that I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons. Let's give that a little bit of a mix. Now we're going to start adding some wet ingredients. Here I've got 1 beaten egg and 25 grams of melted unsalted butter, which I have let cool down a bit. Now we'll start giving this a little bit of a stir in. And we'll add a little bit more moisture, 150 millilitres of milk. And now we're going to add the spice. Because matcha is already quite bitter, we're going to use a mild spice, in this case vanilla. So here I've got 1 vanilla pod. What I'm going to do is split it down the middle like this, not all the way through. And then with the back of the knife, oh, this one's a bit curly, flatten it out, then scrape out the beans with the back of the knife. Give it a bit of a scrape. Now don't throw this away, because actually I'm going to stir this into the dough itself. And we are going to take them out afterwards, but when we knead it in, it's going to release even more of those lovely vanilla flavours. I mean, these beans are pricey, got to make the most out of them. Now let's stir this up into a dough until it all comes together. Right, so that's quite a sticky dough. Now what we need to do is knead it. So I'm going to flour my work surface very well, and I'll knead the dough straight onto that. If you have a machine and a dough hook, do use that, it will save you so much time. If not, like me, then you're going to need this for about 15 minutes, so let's go. Okay, so we're halfway through our kneading. The dough's a little bit elastic, so much so that these little vanilla pods are popping out by themselves, which is great, that's exactly what we want. So just make sure those last bits of vanilla on the inside transfer onto the dough. And we had 3 pieces, so let's have a bit of a fish. Aha, here's another one. Open it up a bit. Get those expensive seeds out. Stick them to the dough. Very nice. Where's the third? Ah, there's the third. Nice and easy to find. Once the dough gets a bit elastic, they'll start popping out themselves. Open this sucker up. Valuable seeds inside. Stick them onto the dough. Nice, and discard. Now before we continue with our kneading, we are going to add 75 grams of sultanas. I'm just going to dump them on there because we'll need it in anyway. And 75 grams of chopped apricots. I'm using these instead of the more traditional chopped peel because again, matcha itself is bitter and candied peel is also bitter. so I wanted to offset that with a little bit more sweetness, but also keep the nice jewel-like colours that you get inside a hot cross bun. So I'm just going to haphazardly kneading these into the dough. And we'll do this for another 5 to 10 minutes. "15 minutes later, that's that done. Next we're going to put this into a lightly oiled bowl so it doesn't stick. Cover it with cling film. And now we're going to leave this for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how warm your room is, for it to rise and double in size. So we'll see you a bit later. It's been about an hour, let's see how we're doing. Nice! Ooh, I like the way the cling film's puffed up. Let's remove that now. As you can see, our dough is nice and puffy. And let's keep that cling film because we're going to use it in a second. Because we still need to proof this dough a second time. Let's do my favourite thing. Punch it down, keep it aside for a second because we are going to flour our surface again, and we're going to split this into 6. Let's free the dough from the bowl. Getting all over my nails. Thankfully the oil has helped tremendously in stopping the dough from sticking. There we go. Just get those last bits out there. Right, so we're going to do this very roughly, splitting it into 6 because we want 6 buns. You can weigh it if you want to get extremely even buns, but I never bother. Now I'm going to shape each into a little ball, like so. Place that one there. This is a bit messy, so let's move over here to put our buns on the tray. I have my prepared lined tray here, and I'm going to space them evenly out. And the buns will join up as they expand, but that's exactly what we want. We want to be able to tear them apart afterwards. If you want, you can bake them on a bigger tray and have them not merge together, but I think it's more fun this way. And when you get them in the shop, they're all joined together. Perfect! Now we're going to cover these yet again and leave them until they've doubled in size again, which will be about half an hour to an hour. So once again, I'll see you a bit later. While we're waiting for those buns to rise, let's make the flour paste for the cross, and it is ridiculously simple. It's literally flour and water. So here we have about 50 grams of plain flour, and to that we're going to add a little water. And that is our cross paste. So let's stick this in a piping bag so it's nice and ready to use once those buns have risen. Wow, look at these. They've really puffed up a lot. And these are ready to bake. But just before we uncover them, we have to go preheat our oven. And we're going to preheat to 180 degrees C. Just before we pop this in the oven, of course, we have to put our crosses on. I've just snipped the top off here, and I'm just going to go across and pipe the crosses on. And because they're all joined up, I'm not worrying about being too precise. Whoops, that is very gloopy. I'll just let that run down the side. Ah, it's so sticky. Release the bun! Gosh, okay. Wow, that's very sticky. I'm just gonna... Why is it so stringy? What the heck? Anyway, I wasn't expecting that. Let's continue to pipe, shall we? And I'm gonna pinch it. Oh my gosh, this is such a mess. Future Tash voiced over here, this was because I didn't actually add enough water because flour keeps on absorbing moisture after you've added it, so it kept getting thicker while I was resting it, and I also mixed it for a bit too long, so I ended up accidentally activating the gluten in the flour. You know what, that's good enough. Let's bake these, and I'm going to bake them for 12 to 15 minutes. Well, aren't these just delightful? While they're still hot, I'm going to glaze them with some simple syrup, and this is equal parts sugar and water, boiled for 3 minutes and then cooled down. I made it for one of my cakes recently, so I'll link that recipe video now, so you can watch me make it, but it really is as simple as boiling equal parts sugar and water for 3 minutes. That's literally what simple syrup is, and you can use it for so many different things. Okie dokie, let's let these cool down a bit before we handle them because we don't want to burn our mouths. Just look at these ridiculously glossy buns. Gorgeous. And they are so satisfying to tear into. Look at how fluffy that matcha bread is. Delicious. Gotta say, it's looking incredibly delicious inside. Let's actually slice one up, shall we? And wow, absolutely gorgeous. Now the best part, let's put some butter on that. Yum. Ah, so pretty, and they smell so good. The reason why I didn't add all those traditional extra spices like allspice or mixed spice, cinnamon, nutmeg, is because I didn't want it to drown out the matcha flavour. Matcha is quite delicate, slightly bitter, a bit herby. So that's why I added vanilla instead. The fragrant, creamy sweetness of vanilla pairs so well with matcha. And I used the chopped apricots instead of the mixed peel for the same reason. Traditional hot cross buns use mixed peel, so orange and lemon zest, but candied. And that goes really well with the spices, and it brings a zinginess and sharpness and just a hint of bitterness to them. But we're using matcha, which is already a bit bitter, so I didn't want to overdo it, and I didn't want to overpower the flavours, which is why I use those chopped apricots, which are much milder and a little bit sweet. And of course sultanas are vaguely inoffensive anyway, so they're always great in almost anything. If you don't want to make sugar syrup or you can't find it, then you can also brush a bit of melted honey or melted golden syrup some people use. Traditionally it's apricot jam, you melt it a bit in a pan and then it's all thin and you brush it on top. I didn't want to buy a whole jar of apricot jam just to glaze some buns, so that's why I used the sugar syrup, and it still works really well. Now I need to take a bite out of this right now. It's killing me to sit here talking and stare at it. I've actually spread on a little bit of salted butter because I like a little bit of salt with my sweet, but you can use unsalted butter, or cream cheese is really nice as well. So cheers. That is amazing, and I still managed to get it a little bit warm from the oven. I didn't take too much time taking videos afterwards, so quite pleased with that. Definitely best warm out of the oven. But they're okay at room temperature too. These will keep for a couple of days, but because they are fresh bread, they might dry out after a few days. Thanks for Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full written recipe on my blog tashcakes.com, and remember to find me on Instagram. I am tashcakes.tastes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you liked it to help other people find it, because algorithm. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Be good, be nice, and have a good week. Shiny, shiny.